And we should now be back on.
Is now departing.
Let me see if I can get.
Should have a new broadcast. We'll just keep going on and on and on. There we
Let's just
go.
pretend like nothing.
Part 2.
Hey guys, sorry about that.
Okay, so where were we? Oh yeah, I've got to have to update my Twitter now.
And this is how we bring everybody back. As you come back and join us, don't forget to leave your donations with your local parishioner.
All right. So, sorry for the interruption. Software decided to crash, and that's the downside to doing live shows like this. Stuff crashes, changes. I'm at the point where when that happens, we just ride it out, we get back on our horse, and we keep going. All right. Silo is still an amazing show, and of course it's so amazing it crashed our stream because we were so excited to talk about it and we killed it. We'll just quickly go around the room for the non-spoiler overview. I'm gonna say really looking forward to tomorrow night with the conclusion, and yeah, we might have to do a special this week because we're off for the 4th, and I don't know, we don't have anything planned for Thursday as far as I know, so
yeah. So I mean, from my perspective, the fact that this took, this episode starts literally seconds after the last one ends, should tell you about the level of action that we've got going on here. We have gone from this slow burn mystery plot to we're getting into Jason Bourne-ish almost territory here. And I couldn't be happier. We've been building to all of this, and now it's arrived. We're getting answers. We're getting, crazy circumstances everywhere. Things are coming to a head, and it's looking really good.
Yeah, I totally agree. John, with your non-spoiler overview.
Oh man, this one is a lot of fun. Stay tuned for the spoiler part.
And Scogli.
Oh man, that slow burn, it just takes. We're like at the point where we're like gonna flip over upside down. We're just ripping. Oh man.
Yep.
This is an exciting show.
So with that, it seems like we're just ready to dive right into the spoiler portion of the show. So we'll go ahead and get into that. I'm just going to come right out and say that I actually, believe it or not, did enjoy the first 4 episodes of Puke Hard Season 1. For the reason that Scogli said was the slow burn, just kind of, getting into the universe. We're going to get it. I liked that approach. I just didn't care for that story. And I don't think many others did either. So it's really nice to finally have a show that actually pulls it off and actually has me not only hyped, but I still have no idea what the hell is going on. I don't know how this is going to resolve. There's like suggestions that Tim Robbins' character, like I feel like he actually knows a lot more than he's led on to believe. Like, I think he actually goes home every night outside the silo to his wife and kids or something. Like, I won't be surprised to find out that he's the inside, caretaker. Because why does he have the keychain that matches the hard drive? Like, what's the deal here? And then, it was a little short-sighted. Well, hackers of the silo, not really super bright, of course, because, hey, where are we going to re-ping the signal? Down to level 94. Oh, how'd she get down there? I'll parachute, clearly.
It should have been a little bit more plausible location. 2 or 3 levels.
They're engineers. They don't think past, the next day. It's just day-to-day life in the silo for most people, whereas, the sheriff has to be thinking 80 steps ahead and couldn't anticipate the, oh yeah, let's go send the guys to level 94 and we're on like level 2 or something, and it's like that.
Oh yeah, they chose it because they didn't like that guy. They're like, yeah, send it to that asshole.
That was not the time to plot your vengeance, but anyway.
Well, I disagree, because like the big thing was like, where is she? And their big goal was we need to watch this information. So like it really didn't matter if they like pinged it to 94 and they're like it's impossible for her to get there. So where is she? Like she was still lost, you know? Which worked out, like which was the big goal. And they had to send it to someone's computer. So who was gonna get hit in the head for this? And like it's like that kind of it worked to me. Especially like her big thing was to just be a needle in a haystack. And if they pinged a 94, then like the whole other side is like, okay, she found somebody to hide her.
Yeah, they're good, but not
like and also like, wow, she is capitalizing on our moves so much faster than we imagined. Like a lot of them are like, we've had this super secret tech and we've been the most efficient. What is going on? Why is this sheriff coming in here and just like deviating and nailing all of the like stats, you know?
Well, I mean, I love the fact that they've turned it into, you know, her trying to desperately get answers to her now running scared, trying to get those same answers simply before they catch her, right?
She's like a rat in a cage. It's crazy. Like,
oh, yeah.
Where is she gonna go? Like,
I mean, but that's fantastic, right? I mean, like, we are getting every kind of suspense we could possibly get from this series. Like, take a look at the different types of suspense that exist, right? The suspense of, you know, we don't know what's going on. Then we've got a vague idea of what's going on, but we don't know what they're going to do to her about it. Now we know what they want to do about her, but are they going to be able to catch her before she can do something with this? Every way they could make this show suspenseful, they've wound up doing so, but they've been doing it with an overarching plot that is slowly being revealed to us. This isn't a lost situation. This is definitely no, they have a story they're telling here. They have an answer to all these questions. They are making us jump through the hoops to get there. That's how you do a proper mystery box. That's how you build suspense and build tension. And now we're finally getting that reward of that release of that. And that's what's making this series amazing.
Like within even the like traditional hero's journey. Like
yeah,
we're all following a hero, a reluctant hero, on her journey through the silo and through the experience. Like all the stuff you just said, like we're actually getting a story the way it's just supposed to be told. And it turns out the reason why the system is existed for all these thousands of years since Homer is because it's always worked.
Yeah.
Like it's not about the plot line that you follow. It's all about what you write in between the lines and outside the lines and make this narrative real for everybody.
I'm starting to wonder if they're just gonna fucking catch her and put her out to clean, and that's how the narrative is gonna carry on. Wouldn't that be something?
I mean, they absolutely could, but I'm kind of hoping that they don't. I'm kind of hoping that she gets the word out about the silo and what's actually going on. No, I don't want to. I don't want like an active like riot like revolt. I want like a quiet revolution where everyone just goes, you know what? Fuck judicial. We're just gonna go for it, and they all like walk out as a unit. You know.
That would be interesting.
Open the hatch door in the bottom. Oh.
Or as H. Marie has suggested in the chat, you know, who wants to find out what's under the water? And it's like, oh yeah, man, is that...
There's the trap, there's the door under the water, too, yeah, absolutely.
What is... Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what episode... Watch us get episode 10, and it's like 3 hours long.
That'd be awesome.
I wouldn't even be mad. Like, I'd be like, I see you. You know?
Yeah, exactly. Oh, we're gonna end the season with a movie. Okay, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
Like that's the secret sauce that Disney has at its fingertips that it's just been wasting. Like The Mandalorian is the perfect filler for a year between movie releases, and instead it came out after the trilogy. Like, if you're gonna write these like complex movies, give us a show about the world building. They could end this with Fallout.
Yeah.
Episode 1, the movie. And you're just like, oh my gosh. Like we were right. But, like they could do literally whatever they want to end this, and like they could do it in a 3-hour movie, and we would watch all 3 hours because we're invested.
With glee.
Yeah, dude, we come. That would be guaranteed special. Like, yeah, dude, like that would be.
Dude,
like,
if it's a
spoiler
realistically
overview, they
2
gave
hours.
us the movie.
Even an hour and a half would be just like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've decided to start spamming our own comment section because I guess that's one way that you can boost interest or whatever. Which, hey, whatever. Just share random thoughts. I don't care what you guys put in there, but yes, if our comment section, and I know people will seem like, they're just commenting their own stuff. Yes, we are. We're having
That's
fun
great.
while trying to grow this channel. So yeah, exactly. The turkey variety is my favorite in particular. So Pollo Zapatos writes in, is this podcast? It's whatever you need it to be. So Silo, I think I feel like we could go on about this, but I think a special will probably do this show justice, and then we eventually got to try the books when we can get around to that. So I'm thinking, it's probably time to go to our non-spoiler overview of Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2. I liked it. It's probably the season's best episode, which makes sense. It probably means that for Season 3, I don't know how the rest of the season's gonna go, guys, but Season 3, Episode 3 is already looking good. Season 1, Episode 1 was that season's strongest. This is probably this season's strongest. And, yeah, here we go with, with Strange New Worlds, Season 2, Episode 2. I can't remember the title off the top of my head. It's like
Paragraph 2, Section 4.
Yeah, Paragraph 2, Section 4. Yeah,
how
exactly.
memorable.
The official motto for Starfleet shall be Ad Astra per Aspera. John, why don't you start off your non-spoiler overview for this episode? You had some choice words last week. We'll get into your more choice words this week. But what are your soft choice words for this episode?
Well, like, who's the dude that runs this one? This is what's
Howard
the
Kurtzman.
Kurtzman.
No,
Finally,
Akiva
found-
Goldsmith is actually the
Oh,
showrunner for this one.
Okay.
Oh, Kiva Kurtzman. Did you hire Kiva? Because
Yes.
Yeah, they're
finally
boys.
found her writers
They're like
for
this.
this one.
They're basically the same person.
But they found the writers. This one, whoever wrote this episode should be your chief writer.
Akiva's got a bit more of a better understanding of Star Trek than Kurtz. He still lacks the knowledge that I would prefer and that other fans would prefer, but he still has a better grasp, and he's actually trying.
Well, and look at it. Here's the proof. I mean, to me, as like a super fan of world building, and like always hearing that Star Trek has all these rules and they follow them, and like supposedly there's consistency. Voyager, Picard, Star Trek, Strange New World season 1. Sorry, I was stuttering. The issue that I have with people that like take on these worlds is they never really prove to us that they know what they're doing with it. Like Star Wars, what did they do? They literally just rewrote A New Hope. And it was like, okay, thanks guys. Like seriously, you guys have all the money to do this right. And this is the episode that at least tells us you know what you're doing. But also, now we know you know. So from here on out, everything I said last week stands. Like, because this episode was written around the same time the last one was. Because I've been watching Always Sunny podcast. I've been finding out how freaking showrunners do this thing in terms of writing shows. They write them all together first, and then they start filming, and then they decide the order of release sometime in there. And yeah, it's a big process. I understand that. But guys, come on. This is awesome. Like, this episode is so fun in terms of showing us that you know what you're doing. More to come in spoilers.
Heavy talky Star Trek, character development, personal responsibility, all that stuff.
Species development, rule development, like explaining where the rule came from, explaining how they can have a double standard.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I
not
like-
be evil or Starfleet's the problem. No, it's like
Well, and it was from the people that felt that, but also like their most educated voices speaking in an educated room about
like
that.
speaking like adults. They're not I was like nobody's. Well, there was a little bit of
No,
tears.
not
They
just
weren't like
not just adults, but professionals, educated professionals.
And you know what I'm going to say, and I think this is probably the best compliment I can pay to Strange New Worlds, because they earned this one legitimately, is this. This is how grown-up professionals resolve issues. They debate, they discuss, they look at things in a rational lens, they allow compassion and empathy to flow, and they come to a mutually acceptable understanding by the end of it.
They define each other's position first, and then debate each other's position second.
Mhm.
Yeah,
So
it's
first
so
they know
important. It's
where
a
the
lot
other
of
person
stars.
stands, rather than just assuming the worst and fighting that enemy, rather than being like, this is just another human or another in the Star Trek verse. Like, that's cool. Like, they're giving us more of the world building for once. Like, I feel like the Strange New Worlds, like, this is a Strange New World. As far as like their path has gone, this one was an actually fun, strange one, because like the last one was like a pirate world-ish, you know?
Yeah, it seems like the Strange New World this time was the legal system, and I'm kind of okay with that.
Well, and the Illyrians, and
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, I think next episode's going to be a banger with a strange we're going to see some Strange New World.
Also,
and then the episode after that's going to be the silly one. What do you think?
Yeah,
Well, and
probably.
not to mention, we should bring up this point, like, we saw the, is it the Solarians in Orville that are like the chief security officer?
Yep.
Right? And they're like this super race that has a planet that humans can't go to without special suits. And way to write an episode that didn't just mirror that. It was a different fight for a different reason, because it was a different species, even though they were kind of similar in the sense that they were superhuman. Like, that was awesome. Like, way not to plagiarize.
Yeah. So, all right. So I think that covers the non-spoiler portion. So getting into the spoiler, I'll just say right out. There we go. Got it set up. I'm just gonna say right out, and I didn't get a chance to figure out how to pronounce the actress's name, but seriously, huge shout out to Yatid Badaki. I hope I'm saying that name correctly. If I'm not, someone please feel free to correct me. Who played the lawyer for number one. First of all, I'm not really familiar with the Illyrian backstory too much, and I know we got a little bit of it in season 1. But just this character, the way that she was written and the way that she was portrayed, I suddenly felt like I got a whole classroom full of Illyrian lore and knowledge and struggle in history. Like, what a performance. This woman's got a career for the rest of her life, and I hope to see her again in Star Trek, whether it's with this character or if she wants to try and aspire to be like, Jeffrey Combs and have 20 different characters with different forms of makeup. I mean,
to casting directors, please do not Mark Hamill this woman. She is phenomenal.
She
had presence. She just owned her whole role, and her voice, everything about her was so fun, and that's why I loved the episode. Like, it wasn't a boring lecture on Star Trek. It was a fight of minds. Like, the thing I've been begging for, maturity. There was zero phaser fire in the courtroom. There was no big escape, no hijinks of any kind. And there were people trying, but then there was mature, responsible response to emotional, just the thing that most episodes of Star Trek commend the heroes for doing, right? Because they have to be braver than their fears. But in this instance, the bravery is in trusting this person that says she's on your team.
I also think special mention needs to be made for Christina Chong's La'an, Noonien Singh character.
Mm-hmm.
We have finally gotten actual good, emotion and emoting from her finally in the series, because she was scared, and you could feel that she was scared. She ratted out her friend inadvertently, and the way she was dealing with it, we didn't just get like a cardboard cutout hard ass here. We got somebody who appeared to be genuinely showing emotion about remorse for inadvertently potentially outing her friend. And we could get into a whole huge discussion about the ethics of outing people for this, that, or the other thing. But I think this episode did a really good job of showing somebody who was legitimately concerned that they had done wrong by somebody and were desperately trying to figure out a way to do right by them. And I think that as a as the B plot to the episode was a fantastic pick for a B plot.
And the respect that they cared for her species, for her character so far, like her emotion was still in line with that. And for Starfleet, because when Uhura was like, no, she was like, I want to get violent. I want to persuade you, but fine. Like, still respecting her team. And that's the maturity. Like, the person that brought it up a few episodes ago, like, this is a chance to finally, like, really prove that they do know it. Like, there are episodes that get it.
This is how I want to see my strong women characters portrayed up against each other. Okay? That's what we saw. We saw a very strong female from nowhere, like totally unknown, that quickly like made her presence known, go up against Ensign Uhura. And yet I saw that performance this time, and I can't remember the actress's name, and I'm going to now because it's these guys.
Which character?
The one that plays Uhura.
That would be Cecilia Rose Gooding.
Okay.
Who was her predecessor?
What?
The original Uhura?
Oh, Nichelle Nichols.
Oh, Nichelle Nichols.
Yeah.
I saw Nichelle Nichols.
A little glimpse. Like it was like,
no, that whole scene,
you're getting it.
Nichelle. It was so beautiful.
And
exactly.
She had the empathy and she had the smile and the courtesy, but she was like, "You're asking me to ruin both our careers."
Yeah, I can't do it.
And
And there was no.
I'm not mad at you, but no. I understand you, but no. But you didn't hear any of those words. You just saw it.
You didn't need to because the subtext was there.
Right.
Yeah.
There was no belittling of any of the other crew members. We didn't have a man walk up and go, "Girls, you guys need to, stop fighting." No, they were left to settle their agreements because they were being adults like they were. So there was no moment to try to, make a stupid girl power moment. It was just these two characters having a discussion about the ethics of getting the logs, and they both killed it. It was amazing to watch.
Look, we literally had the two versions of a strong female on screen playing off each other and just excelling at it. Finally. Like, where were you, 4 years ago now?
Like, we always knew they could do it. Honestly, thank you. Seriously, I do get it. It's so late. And to everybody that has been lost along the way, that was the Oregon Trail, Because they found it. They did find the coast on the other side. Finally, they figured out that, there is, this is what we wanted the whole time. This episode doesn't bother me in any way. And in every single way, it makes me want the next episode without any shame. I feel like I watched a Star Trek episode.
Yeah, there was no moment where I went. There's always a moment where I go like this. I'm just used to that.
Yeah.
This whole time, like I said, we had just amazing performances in the courtroom, and like I said, just all the characters that were behaving like we've wanted to see. It's okay to get silly every now and then, but this is like this episode here, guys. This is what I want to see more of. I want to see more of the conundrums, the ethics debates. Like episode 6 of season 1 was headed in this direction, and then we got episode 7 with that stupid romance plot, and then we had episode 8 with the Mbanga's daughter and the imagination stuff and the changing of the ship to the fairy tale kingdom. It was so bad.
How much of this, if we're really looking at it, how much of this is them really going back to like the first few episodes of every season so far and trying to get those things back? Because like all the stuff you just described, like those are our least favorite episodes in every season of every predecessor so far, because they're always the ones that are like, okay, there's something going on. Like one of the things like modern audience really likes is at least get us a hero that we want to follow in the universe, and then start playing with the universe, and then give us more, right? Because like if we don't have somebody that's like us coming into the universe, we kind of feel disconnected from the whole story, and that's where we've been so far. But in this episode, we got that. Like, this was 100% modern political. They're the writer's version of what's going on in the world today.
It's a proper
in the Roddenberry method.
Yeah,
they presented it with two not normal, not modern day entities, not left wing, right wing, but instead two entirely fictional universes, and had the fight without any ties except for our emotional connection that the characters were giving us, that the characters were leading us to feel. Because like when she got arrested, I didn't care in season 1. I didn't feel bad for Pike. Like, I like Pike as a character. I like Ensign Mount as an actor. But I was not invested. Now I'm way invested. Because everything we've said so far, like even I got really messed up by the scene when they're in the bar and it's Pike and the lawyer, the Federation lawyer. And when he says, I want to go on the stand and be her character witness, and she says, when did you know? I thought she was actually
the tension on that scene.
So scared.
First of all, they weren't in a bar, okay? They weren't just any bar. They were on the Enterprise bar. Like when she walked up and said, "Can I have a seat?" My reaction, I looked over and I'm like, "You can get off the ship. Is what you can do. Get out."
I think my response would have been no.
I'm sorry. I had you like removed from the approved persons list. You can go wait outside the airlock.
So aware of how much Ensign Mount still liked her and respected her. Like I can't remember if they were married at one point or not, or if they were
just dating.
I'm pretty sure they're dating. Yeah.
Okay.
Not even dating. Like, casual military.
Okay, so yeah, so like I was so aware that like this was a clear military hanging out, even though they're on opposing sides of the same war.
Right.
But when she flipped on him, and then flipped back and was like, "That's why you can't go on the stand." Like she just helped him out. Like that was military tricked me and came back to where we were at the beginning, and I was like, this episode, man, it was so fun.
Like she did it in a very I have to show you kind of way. That was very dignified and poignant, but it was just
also really professional too, right? Like, that's what we want, right? We want quality debate about the issue of the episode.
Right? No, I really had an issue with that scene taking place on the ship because I was like, isn't you being on board like a conflict of interest? Aren't you supposed to recuse yourself on the trial now? Like, and then the Vulcan prosecutor, another great performance.
Dude.
Just and the fact that he attacks the situation, like he does it so. This episode is an adult. It's a big boy Star Trek, okay? Because he wasn't doing it out of malice. He wasn't doing it because he wanted to screw her life and career and wanted to screw Captain Pike. He was literally doing it because, hey guys, the law says this. I am the lawful good.
He's a Vulcan lawyer.
He's the lawful good. And so...
Yeah. And consistent. Because when she showed him the rule and the workaround, he didn't protest.
He was like,
He
yeah,
didn't go,
that's
my
it.
honor. He didn't go, my ego. No, because Vulcans don't have that.
He was just doing his job, and it was an excellent
very
display
well. That's the
of
rule.
right, of the fact that, hey, you know what? You found the rules to outmaneuver me. Great. I'm glad that this just further cements
like,
our
well
cements your
played.
victory. Like
Well,
he's
no,
not,
he-
and that's the difference.
Yeah, no, but he was like, no, because she, in her victory, like in her conclusion, it was a victory for him as well.
As
too.
well, yeah.
And he came out
Yeah.
perfectly clean on as well. Like, oh, you didn't ruin anybody's career or lose and have the law just overheld against you. Instead, you're 100% just, there was a part that you didn't know and didn't know all like it took so much time to show us each of the steps in a row and how they happened, and we had so many conversations lying out how the order of events. But then in the concluding arguments, the defense, she just orders it in line by line according to Federation law, request for amnesty. Everybody gets a clean slate. Nobody's a villain. Nobody needs to even change
Asylum.
thing.
Yeah.
Asylum, right? Asylum. And they were like, "Cool, thanks for finding that. We didn't know that existed."
Well, and it's even a better, and I even liked the way that she phrased it. It's like, this isn't, it's you know, the law is supposed to be our standard to help us be better. It's not meant to be absolute. It's not meant to be, you know, when it starts to work against the interests of the people, then it's no longer just or good, and it needs to be abolished or changed. And that's what this is supposed to be, but we'll get into that another time. We definitely don't have the justice system that we had, and that's the problem. Is that the reason why I mentioned the Vulcan prosecutor as well is because the Vulcan prosecutor was arguing for the truth, not to win. And that's the difference of what was going on here, was both sides were arguing the truth and the best way forward in the interests of everybody involved. And that's the problem with the American justice system.
Not even just the truth. Like, the Vulcan prosecutor was just trying to figure out who all broke the rules.
Yeah.
Like, and his only thing was, how many people do I have to punish because you broke the rules? And like, did you corrupt the system? Like, and he was only being logical about it. He wasn't trying to demonize anyone. He just needed all the facts, because that's what his job is collect the facts, present the facts, and the judge is judge. His job is not to judge as well. His job is not to sell.
So
his job is to present the facts so that everybody can judge according to the facts.
It's what you would expect from a JAG officer, to be perfectly honest.
Yeah, definitely.
You
Now, this was the episode that I was finally fully won over by Ortegas's character. I know that a lot of people find her to be annoying and unprofessional and all that. And watching her do the narrating, the making up of their speech between the Vulcans.
I'm sorry you had to witness that.
I was that whole scene was
okay, but guys, I'm gonna say this right now. Rewatch that whole scene, and you can actually pick up on the very, very subtle Vulcan body language there.
Yes.
And that was fantastically done.
Okay.
With the way he stood up, it was the speed and the complete lack of any kind of walking away. I was like, nailed it, brother.
Yeah.
Like, that was great.
So the thing that hit me with this episode, though, and the reason why I'm now, a fan of Ortegas after this episode, was because I finally figured, okay, I'm pretty sure this show is going to hit the ground running hard in season 3. I think they're finally going to, because it is the proper modern TOS.
And on that note, though, real quick, Parker, you hit the nail on the head when you brought up the line where she talked about the law isn't meant to choke those that can't live up to the standard. It's meant to improve us to be above the standard, to achieve better. And that's what we are saying to you for season 3, S&W writers, S&W showrunners, Kurtzman, as a whole.
And
Like,
I did absolutely
Exactly.
love the little wink to the Discovery short about the show tunes. That was sweet. For anybody
That
who's
was
seen
cute.
the Trek shorts,
Yeah.
that was funny. And it was cool because it placed that short in perspective of when it took place. He was an ensign when that happened. That was a very hard time.
Yeah. So what I was trying to get to with Ortegas, it's the reason why I think this show is the proper modern day representation of Star Trek is because, well, a few reasons. So we mentioned classic Trek earlier in the show. I think on the other broadcast tonight. We get 2 broadcasts. 2 shows tonight, guys. No, you don't get your 2 hours. Actually, you're going to get a little bit of less time because I'm not restarting the clock. So TOS, we've agreed, is basically Holy Star Trek. You can criticize it, but you can't. There's nothing. It's like criticizing the Declaration of Independence, criticizing Jefferson for the Declaration of Independence. Without it, no freedom, no Star Trek, no nothing, no Discovery, no Prodigy. So we agree that at least that TOS Holy Trek. Well, here's the thing. Let me ask you guys a quick question. Go around the room. Classic Star Trek, your favorite Star Trek. Do you ever get tired of watching it? Corione?
No.
Scogli?
No.
John?
That's my happy.
You get tired of classic Star Trek? That's a bummer.
I don't watch any Trek, man. Like, this is my first reintroduction into Trek. I'm not trying to chase all the new stuff. I'm trying to chase all the sci-fi. I love space, and so that's what brought me back to Trek. Is there's been a recent decline in new sci-fi that I haven't already seen.
Yeah.
And so I'm enjoying Trek, and I'm enjoying all this old stuff as much as I can, but I don't want to rewatch it mostly because I don't like the visuals.
That's fair.
That to me is the product of its time.
The
And
things
that's
that
it.
well,
get all
and
the stories and the writers writing, but George Lucas was trying to write about the Iraq War while simultaneously writing about the Revolution, while simultaneously writing about some other thing that he believed Dick Cheney was.
well, and for classic
it was
Trek,
a hard thing to figure
I
out.
don't rewatch. Yeah, I don't rewatch full series that often. What I mostly rewatch is Star Trek's 1 through 6. That's like my go-to Trek fix. The movies.
I still love 2009.
And yes, 09 and beyond. I also love those movies too. All right, my point real quick being, okay, classic Trek, you guys said no, you don't get tired of your favorite Star Trek, okay? I don't either. So that means I don't need anything new for Star Trek. Now, I'm not trying to say that, modern Trek isn't for you. Okay, I am saying that it's modern Trek isn't for us in the sense that we don't need it.
Hasn't been.
We have Star Trek that we love, that we still love, that's timeless. I mean, Star Trek Picard Season 3 had to go draw from the classics because it was so desperate to succeed. We have, so we take that idea in mind and we take modern day TOS. Well, what was original TOS? Original TOS was, we had a Russian on the bridge in the middle of the Cold War. We had a African-American female on the bridge.
There was a lieutenant, an
personally prefer
officer.
Black American, but I'll say whatever works
She's
for
third in
everybody's
command
comfort.
on the bridge, right?
Right. She had authority. She had power.
She was an officer, yeah.
Exactly. It was a huge deal. We had my personal favorite stereotype break. We had Sulu driving the ship, and yeah. And of course, we had a gung ho pirate captain, and then well, at least he kind of sometimes comes off that way. But at the same time, Kirk's professionalism is a product of his time. And then of course we have the Vulcan Spock, which most everybody is actually their secret favorite sometimes. I've always loved the
down
Kirk
home country doctor too. Right?
And then my favorite character, Dr. McCoy. Yes, I like McCoy better than Kirk. Deal with
I think Spock is Jiminy Cricket.
The point is,
the logic wizard.
we had all of these different walks of life, and then Scotty, our Scottish engineer that probably is a little too attracted to engines. The point is, we had all of these different representations and different walks of life all working together. That was the point. So, modern Star Trek does actually have to appeal to modern audiences to make the reach, because if those of us, especially people in the 735 Club, guys, if you're still not tired of your 735 Club, you don't need the new stuff. But this is where this is where I'm trying to get people to see. Yes, be critical of it. I'm not saying don't criticize. Of course, criticize. We criticize on this show all the time still. We weren't super nice to
Picard.
Picard.
Attack the writing.
We had mostly attacked the writing.
Because then they hide.
Right.
And if we hide the writers, then they don't come back and write anything new because they're too scared to be attacked again. So
I mean,
attack the writing.
So,
I mean, didn't I go on like a 15-minute tirade about the ensign's quarters being like under a stairwell and the captain's quarters being
he's got half the saucer section. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's
Look,
writing though. Like,
look, that's not okay. Let's get away from what I'm trying to say here.
He's at the barbecue.
All right. Yeah, we can talk about the interior of the TARDIS Enterprise in a minute. Okay. The point that I'm trying to get is Ortegas's character. Okay. You know what each character does have some of that classic, representation. We have Uhura's on the bridge, which I think is great. And then, of course, Pike, Anson Mount is trying to channel Shatner's Kirk a bit more, and that's kind of cool. I don't see it's necessary, but hey, it's what he wants to do. Great. And, of course, we have Ethan Peck, who's slowly starting to grow into Spock again. We'll see how this season progresses. Mbenga's a great character as well, though. So we have a different Doctor character this time. We have...
All is clearly supposed to be from, a combination of various Asian heritages.
She's, yeah, and Christina Chong, by the way, if you guys aren't following her on Twitter, she's amazing. Her fan interaction, she loves what she does. And it could be a PR representative, but even then, PR representatives, the good ones, are usually like connected at the hip with who they represent anyway. So the point is, she's got great correspondence with fans, and she absolutely enjoys what she does. And yes, I like that. I've always liked that character since season 1. But Ortegas won me over this time because I figured out she's the millennial Zoomer representation on the ship. She's the character that is relatable to the types that are going to giggle and laugh at making fun of different cultures. And that's the thing, guys. That's what I think that this show is trying to point out is that, okay, respect for other cultures doesn't mean we can't make jokes about them from time to time. Okay? I don't make jokes about other cultures to put them down. I make jokes about other cultures because we're humans. It's what we do. We laugh at ourselves. We do better when we make fun of each other. We don't need critical race theory taught in schools because we have Blazing Saddles. We can show Blazing Saddles to the kids and let them go back to playing kids.
Whoa, hold on. I don't know if we can show Blazing Saddles to every kid out there. I think you need to be at least like 12 or 13.
10. Thing is, I grew up with kids in my neighborhood that were from different ethnic backgrounds, and no one gave a shit. And I didn't give a shit until I got in school, and they started shoving it down my throat and telling me about all this horrible history, which is fine to learn in an education perspective, but I didn't do any of that, so I apologize for nothing. Yeah, and that's my point with modern Star Trek is that's why... you have to have some characters that people can relate to. People didn't just love Star Trek because it was, oh, look, everybody's working together, they're happy. They showed people that people could relate to. How many Russians grew up inspired by Pavel Chekhov that think that Pavel Chekhov was the real star of the show? Probably quite a few, I would imagine. I can't recall meeting some yet. But...
on top of that, take a look at Chekhov, right? He represented a younger generation, junior officers on the ship.
Right.
You got to have that younger crowd too, and that's what he was there for as well. And I mean, how many American younger individuals identified with the Russian junior officer?
That's Sam. I want to say Sam Worthington. He plays Star Killer in Force Unleashed. I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. He had an interview. Because he actually ended up in Star Trek Online, and so he ended up he did a live stream with him on Cryptic one time, and he actually had a conversation with Walter Koenig. I guess they had shared a flight together or something, and Koenig's just like, we were kind of in the background, we weren't really there, and Sam's like, are you kidding me? You guys were just as important as Kirk, Bones, and McCoy, Kirk Bones and Spock. Like, it's not Star Trek without Sulu, or Chekhov, or Uhura, or even Yeoman Rand, I felt was, should have had a better, more
She
prominent
was
role
great.
in the
She
original
got a-
series.
Or
in the movies. Yeah, she only showed up in Star Trek 6 on the Excelsior, still a young.
That was nice.
Anyway.
Hey man, if that's what you want to do with your life, you be you.
Yeah, I wish the Coast Guard felt the same way. So many people good people they cut when they were like, I'm happy to retire as an E5, and no, that's not allowed. It should be though. Idiots. Yeah, the military is not as smart as they want you to believe, people. So, yeah, and that's what I think it is, and people are like, oh, it's so unprofessional on the bridge. I'm like, yeah, like, it's professional when it needs to be on the bridge, but it's also, like, depending on who's the deck officer, things can be a little fun and silly. I made several different announcements for Chow, and I wish I had recorded them, but they were all, like, ridiculous, making fun of stuff we did on the boat. And it was, all official pipes while we were underway.
The difference between professionalism on the bridge and unprofessionalism on the bridge is when other people are looking at the bridge. If you notice, every single time somebody calls in, it is everybody eyes on screen. Sir, we got a report. Sir, we have a problem. Sir, engaging. But then when it's time to be chill, it's time to be chill.
But when it's just them on the
You've
bridge.
never served. Trust me, it's just like your job. When your boss isn't being watched by his boss, he chills.
You crack off as you execute the order.
But
And when you're not being watched by your boss, you chill.
yeah,
Like Pike isn't on the bridge 24/7, so they're not going to be.
I would also argue a little bit that look, even in modern day, right, a ship at sea is its own world, right? And the
That's what I'm
captain
gonna
of
say, yeah.
and the captain of that and the captain is the god of that world, and so he sets the tone. If Pike wanted a relaxed crew that when they were at cruise and nothing was going on, they could joke around a little bit and have fun so long as they were remaining professional. Hey man, that's cool. We saw Kirk having fun with some of the officers on TOS. We saw that Picard ran a very tight ship, right? We saw that, but when Riker was in charge, people let their hair.
Picard still let crew members have fun with each other, though. I'm just saying.
I know.
Picard let people bring their families. Like, in my opinion, he might have run a tight ship, but he's like, yeah, I expect you to show up to watch on time. The bridge will be sparkly clean every time. But hey, go ahead and bring your families. We have picnics in the holodecks, and and if if you feel overworked, tell you what, 1 hour shifts, there's 23, we got plenty of crew. You guys, this is a luxury ship. And no one actually works more than 20 minutes a day.
It's a luxury liner. It's the love boat in space. Yeah.
No, Picard was 100% the guy nobody wanted to serve under.
Right?
Like, his ship was so clean. The jokes were 100% like moderated and narrowed. And exactly to your point, Carion, when like Riker takes over, the jokes get a little bit dirtier. Like, oh, Captain, you want to go check out this?
Right?
But they would never.
Oh, no. Riker. Oops. Sorry, I didn't mean to show the world my eyes. My bad. Riker, on his Enterprise, no, Riker wasn't even.
Was the clean spit shine shoe, and Riker was the difference.
No,
so
there's that episode.
In the room, it kept it soft.
I disagree. There's that episode in TNG where that hormonal female is on board, and Riker's just going out over open comms. Hey, gonna be in the holodeck. Y'all know why. And it's like, yeah, that's cool, man. We know what you're doing in there. Yeah, that's fine.
But I will also add in too.
But
right?
the moment Picard met Riker, shave.
Yeah.
Picard's just jealous because he doesn't have the charisma.
But I would also say, and then you take a look at like Cisco's bridge, right? Whenever when they're at like normal levels of alert, everybody is chill. They're talking about their holosuite time. O'Brien's like yelling at the computer, whatever, right? But then red alert hits and everyone snaps to because they know you know,
In this time.
Same shit.
Cisco's got,
Same
Cisco's
shit.
got his shit together.
Yeah.
I would even say Cisco is closer to Picard than he is to Riker, because like they're allowed to talk at low volumes, but if if Cisco's talking, eyes on me, and if you make a joke, you made it at me. Fix yourself. Even if it wasn't, even if you're talking to yourself, like he does it to O'Brien. At one point, O'Brien like hits the thing and he goes, "Is that how you talk to me?" He's like, "What? No, sir, I was talking to." Sorry, sir. Like, Cisco is 100% like, we are gentlemen. Everybody on the bridge, everybody is a gentleman. You are respectful to anything, everything. You do not act rash. If you're gonna whisper, whisper. Like, you can talk silently in the silent rooms, but like respect the order. But he's also not like Picard, where it's like, and shine your shoes and shave every morning.
All right, we got fan mail in the chat. Nemesis of Eden says, "Hello all, hope you're all doing well today." Yes, we are. We're having a great discussion. Please feel free to spam the chat with random thoughts and ideas. Yeah, I mean, what Corione describes is totally correct, especially when I stood live watch in the Florida Keys. You know, sometimes we'd be like joking or watching something stupid on the TV, and everyone's just having a great time. And then, you know, mayday, 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 we're on search and rescue. We're professionals. Jokes are over. Everyone's at work, and that's totally what they actually are doing a pretty good job of showing that difference. They just get a little bit too much with the unprofessionalism, and I think that people want to see a little bit more discipline on the ship, and I think that's a fair critique, and I think that you can still achieve that more professional. I mean, we just saw it with Uhura. Okay,
exactly. The episode that we are in love with is the one where Starfleet was Starfleet.
Yeah.
Uhura wasn't rude. She stood her ground and stayed true to the policy, and it was just it.
And if anything, you can almost argue that what she was saying out of love for her friend, right? Yeah. Like, it's, I don't want to see you go down for something here.
Right.
You know, I'm trying my best to save you from you.
Yeah. Exactly. All right, so turning back to also good Star Trek. Speaking of relevant social commentary, well, sort of.
Damn, yeah.
We got back-to-back, just straightforward, with Past Tense Part 1 coming in almost 30 years later and almost nearly predicting the future. The Defiant has arrived at Earth, and Cisco, Bashir, and Dax are beamed to the surface, where they will address the Starfleet Symposium in San Francisco on the situation in the Gamma Quadrant. But they never arrive. O'Brien has no clue what happened. The logs show that they definitely arrived. Meanwhile, the three find themselves in San Francisco in the year 2024. They have no ID, and Bashir and Cisco are arrested and put in a concentration camp like Sanctuary District. While the two try to find a way back, Cisco notices it's only days before major riots break out in the district, a pivotal moment in Earth's history. Meanwhile, Dax is picked up by Chris Brenner, a businessman. He takes her to his home, where she starts searching for Bashir and Cisco.
Dax gets picked up by Rick Astley.
It gets picked up by a YouTuber. So that's pretty accurate, you know, with his own split. So one of us needs to create the alias Chris Brenner and go start Channel 90 and then get like 5 million followers. It's right there. It's up for grabs. You'll be successful and you get to meet Terry Farrell in the near future.
That in and of itself is well.
I'm going to be honest. Getting probably like the weirdest associative memory with this episode in terms of the skit by John Mulaney where he taught, or not skit, but this joke he made, one of his stand-ups, and I'm going to butcher it, but basically he was like, Back to the Future, the guys that pitched it, they were like, all right, we've got this new movie. It's called Back to the Future. And in this movie, all right, what's going to happen in this movie? And in this movie, they're going to go to the past. Like, Back to the Future? Are they going to the past? All right. What's going on? Is he going to go like kill Hitler? What's going on? And he's like, no, he's going to make out with his mom. And you're real weird. And then he's going to get back to the current time. And we're going to call it Back to the Future. And this is an episode where one of the first things that I was like, oh, was when they were like, what year are we in? And they're like 2024. And I was like, this was written in like 94, 95 or aired in 94, 95. And I was like, oh, wow, finally, the future. Like, yes, they're going back in
The
time.
future is now, old man.
Yeah. Like, that was my first hit watching this episode that, it's about next year. Kind of
Well, that looks like
San
Francisco like 3 years ago.
Yeah, let's chill, Simpsons. Come on. DS9, like, don't get there, Juju. I don't want sanctuary cities at any point in the next year.
Well, fun fact. The week after this episode was written, San Francisco was proposing sanctuary district style setups. And it got shot down partly because of this episode.
Thank you.
There's a big area that's all tents and it's like squared off with like.
Why wasn't this mentioned in what we left behind?
It was.
Oh wait, it was? I don't remember it. Dang it! I'll have to rewatch that documentary again, probably after we do season 8.
Yeah, it's really good.
To me, a lot of like what this episode really talks about is so much the actual modern issue with today. Like I unfortunately see this as a little Nostradamus, a little woo-woo predicting the future, but also like not woo-woo.
So let's address the obvious. Let's address the obvious elephant in the room. Okay, we talked about this backstage. We need to have a conversation about it. All right. This is like what they totally got wrong, and what I find just really bothered me a lot was the fact that they would be holding M4s, not shotguns. Jeez. Shotgun is like the worst crowd control weapon you get, especially if you spray with pellets, okay? An M4 is precise and purposeful and accurate and safe for the rest of the environment, okay? Less likely to catch a stray slug. Yeah. If you get hit with 223, a stray 223, I got good news for you. As long as it's not in the head, you're gonna be fine. Little tiny bullet versus a freaking shotgun slug that's just gonna put a hole through you. Like, that doesn't do anybody any good. That just makes a bigger mess, okay? People like ARs for a reason. They're cleaner and safer for the environment. No, my biggest issue was, of course, Cisco taking up the mantle of Gabriel Bell. I'm not sure what he was thinking, because in the year 2024, I mean, they're gonna have facial recognition software. You can't just pick up someone's ID and go, "Oh, I'm this guy now." No, that doesn't.
You just swap. You like trade bus passes or whatever. And you're like, "Yeah, I'm this guy now."
Well, according to your ID picture, that has your picture on it with your name. This isn't you. I mean, come on. No.
I don't know. I feel like they got modern San Francisco cops exactly right.
You're too stupid to actually check IDs.
Not only too stupid to
Or no, wait!
IDs,
Checking
but,
ID is racist in that city. Right, I totally forgot.
Not only that, but like their stop and frisk practices haven't changed. 2023, 2024, they're the same. I mean, like, if there is one group in this world that has just seen the worst decline, it is the police community. And not to like jump on the bandwagon of like harping on them, but like when you just keep placating abusers and allowing them to just keep joining the ranks because you make it too hard for regular people to join your ranks.
And you refuse to pay good people more money?
Not even. Dude, they pay like $42,000 a year. I keep seeing their jobs on Indeed, but they're so judgy. Like they want you to be this picture perfect person
and
that is never
I just want to put this out there. When we send troops overseas, we make sure they spend at least 6 months for like a 2-month tour. We spend at least 6 months on learning how in that culture to de-escalate conflict without violence. That's what we put our troops,
ROEs.
right. That's what we put our troops through. Why? I'm not saying, I would never say anything like defund the police or the police are the problem or anything like that.
Oh,
What I'm
I
saying
will.
is, well, hold on. What I'm saying is we need to train them with the level of care and respect we would put towards when we send troops internationally. We should be doing double that for home.
Well, and they need to
Especially if
be
they're going to be judgier and more
well. And in the United
specific and discriminatory in who you pick to join your force. Like the Marines aren't even as strict as the police forces of America, and yet they're committing these heinous acts of treason because they're disrespecting the citizens they swore to protect, which is treason.
Well, and that's why I'm all for
the country.
I'm not really so
And
much for
the state.
defunding it for the United States in particular. The only lawful authority granted law enforcement power in the United States is the sheriff to operate domestically. And so the problem I have with police is that they aren't elected. They're appointed by the mayor, so they're not accountable to the people. They're accountable to the mayor. And that's why that I think they need to be
accountable to re-election.
Yeah.
And nothing more. But on all of that, the biggest thing is it all ties into this episode.
Yeah,
Because
real quick, we do have a couple of chats. Nemesis of Eden says, recently learned about 8-gauge swan shot. Wowzers. Yeah, my shoulder just hurt reading that. Rancor Steve says, it's the media that and left that make the tension go up with cops. Defunding the cops is the dumbest thing to happen. Like I said, it's a principle thing for me. Can I just finish? Like, I'm not saying that we need to get rid of police. I'm saying that we need to properly put them under the authorities that they're supposed to be granted.
Whoa.
And in the Constitution, that's the county sheriff. And so that's where, like, the power needs to be restored to the people so that way that the police are held better accountable. But Rancor Steve is correct. The media absolutely blows it up, and other people
They
circulate
the
those.
police.
They did, and now they're learning their lesson.
And it went up like violent crime went up like 600%.
Who would have thought of such a thing?
The next
here's the
week.
thing: it's not about defunding the police. It shouldn't be about defunding the police because like,
I'm actually of the camp that they need to be paid more money.
Well, no, okay. The issue is not defund or fund or any of that. The issue is education. It always has.
That is definitely a big part of it too.
And it's
Absolutely.
also about who you pick to join your ranks and who's allowed to stay in your ranks. Like, if you're supposed to enforce law and order, then you should be expected to live to the standard of being the most odious, the most organized. And you know what? I never want to be that person. I was a Marine, and that's what they asked of us. And that's why I did my honorable discharge. I did the 4 years, but I was done because I didn't like being that professional 24/7. I didn't want to be Picard.
Yeah.
And so I left rather than disgracing my family, rather than disgracing the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
I left because it wasn't for me. And that's the same, like the police and Parker, to your point, like, and Rancor Steve, to your point, the mass media, the issue is my joke landed because San Francisco's stop and frisk policies are the exact fucking same, and they have constantly done exactly what Cisco was able to get away with, which was portraying another black person. Because in San Francisco, they still just arrest you because you're black. Like, you can be a 13-year-old boy, and they'll say you're a man because you're 6'2" with great genetics. And then they'll disrespect you like a man even after they find out you're 13. And that's what leads to sanctuary cities. Yeah. That's what leads to placating this. And it's the people at the top. It's the mayors. It's the governors. It's the elected representatives that also don't live the standard.
Well, they don't
Which
need
is
to.
also
They're
shown in
better
the
than
episode.
Yeah.
Exactly. The thing that Roddenberry was hitting at is that you must be abusive to yourself to respect the standard. You must never allow your dreams and your wishes to disrespect others for any reason, ever, no matter how much power you have.
So,
and
seems to be an agree. Yeah,
it's timeless because still is our issue today.
Yeah, and then seeming to agree with what Scogli said, Rancor Steve follows up, says, people who attack the police tend to want the cops to come help them when their stuff is stolen. Yeah, it's like people who made fun, it's like, oh, you're in the Coast Guard, puddle pirates, whatever. It's like, haha, don't get in trouble out at sea because I don't want to come save you.
I will because I am.
But I will.
I will, but I'm gonna rub this in your face.
whoops.
I'm bringing the salt to put all over your wound.
Yeah, like to be perfectly honest, the number one thing I would love to see every police officer have to go through as part of their "Are you going to make the force, or are you just going to fail out?" is after going through like a heavy-duty psychological evaluation, that information is fed to a trainer, who once they give him a gun full of blanks, they have him go into a room, and a guy goes in and pushes all the dude's buttons. If that guy goes for the gun with the blanks in it, he's fired.
Actually, on the other side of that,
if, however, he can de-escalate, then he's worthy of being a cop.
on a similar note, though, there was actually a video that I would share often, and actually I need to go find it again because it's still relevant, where an actual BLM supporter took a training session with police and got to learn firsthand actual scenarios about why police draw. And it goes back to what John says, the importance of education. And that's what I want to see more of, too, is just go learn the perspective, okay? You could still be...
the nerdiest among us, so they're not scary.
Yeah.
They're not threatening. So, like, the ones that uphold the standard, I love those people. Never want to be them, but I love them because they said it for me. Like, if the majority of us are following the law, it's a lot easier for me to be like, okay, I won't go 20 over the speed limit. I'll go 10. Because, like, I don't want to be that abusive to the standard because I do still have discipline. And that's the big thing that I think this episode is really showing, because Cisco is fully aware that he has all the words to save the nation. And the role he takes is the one that the guy he read about took before him, and eats it. And just does his part to respect history, that like his laws, because he's setting the standard and living by the standard and sticking to the standard even when it's just so hard not to.
And, you know, I do want to bring up one other little point that I think needs to be brought up specifically for Cisco. So let's make sure we've got this right, okay? He is coming down as the emissary, or like voice of the gods, and he's putting himself into a martyr kind of scenario here. I'm just saying.
Jeez, man, the metaphor is like, the allegory is shameless.
Cisco as Space Jesus is kind of becoming a thing here.
You know what? I'm okay with
He's
it because
going
Cisco's
through
my
all
favorite
the
captain.
trials.
So
He truly is hitting all the trials of a true hero.
well,
In that old school mythology sense.
see, but this is the thing I love about Cisco. It is, and I love about DS9 is TOS and TNG are the dream. DS9 is the way. DS9 is the relatable Star Trek. This is how us common folk are supposed to get into this. And guess what? It's not always going to be pretty, because we either get the Maquis or we get thrown back in time to situations that mirror real life. So so of course now there's the nitpicks, right? Because this is one of those episodes that was definitely made with a concept in mind and an idea that they wanted to tell, and it was obviously about that sanctuary story. And that's where they built around it. And that's why we get certain silliness, like, oh, we get it, like we just needed to think a little bit more. So my first issue right off the bat is O'Brien coming back from 2048. Okay, 2048, history's different. Why didn't you just stay there and look for the point of divergence from the timeline and then narrow down your searches?
I might be able to answer that. Dude, he's an NCO, not a history major.
Right, so instead we're left with the plot device of just randomly pick one and hope it's the right one, because things happen, right? Yeah, that's kind of abuse of writing privilege.
It's the same plot device you just gave Silo. The engineers got it. Or they don't.
Yeah. Yeah, just catching up on the chat real quick. Says it was a Punisher gift, just catching up on the chat real quick. Says it was a Punisher gift that the emblem is now considered its... Oh, Jesus.
Internal.
That's ridiculous.
Twitter was supposed to be better than this. What the hell?
It's not. It was run by San Francisco.
Yeah, John,
Did
you're going to need to get... yeah.
Did you think they were going to run their internet better?
We need more American flags on this show out of protest, damn it. God.
These
You
are
guys
the
can do
doors.
Canadian-American flag hybrids, that's fine, but
This is,
we
to
need
me,
more...
This is the difference between
more
a dork and a nerd. A nerd is like super about upholding the standard, but a dork also tells you not to swear when only adults are in the room.
Yeah. And the Nemesis of Eden piles on. What's next? Pirate Skulls. But yeah, no, literally next up on the chopping block, this bad boy right here. Yeah.
Wasn't it like a swear for a little bit? Like, to me, it's the same thing.
I
It's
remember,
like,
I'm just going to say this, okay? When I served, I joined while Obama was president because that was a good idea. And man, the shift in 2017 from going from, I'm ashamed to be an American and ashamed to wear this uniform to America, fuck yeah, times 1,000. I will get into that another time.
I didn't feel that. I just meant more along the lines of like, why are all these people nannying people? Like, this is what it eventually leads to. Eventually, you have to put them in a sanctuary city where you hide the shame of how hard it is to help them because you didn't do the one thing that you needed to do, which was educate them.
Yeah.
And then give them a way to succeed where the barriers aren't sanctuary city in disgrace or rich elite. Like San Francisco, you did this to yourselves, literally in this film in '94, and they told you y'all were gonna do it, and you did it anyways.
They just found a different way.
Because a week later, you guys tried to start sanctuary cities. They told you don't because of this episode, and then 2024 is rapidly approaching, and you are creating the exact same setting for this episode. And nothing's changed. Like, people say people in power learn from history. I don't see it. I don't see any education up there. All I see is
they learn how to do it faster. They learn how to screw more people over. They learn how to give themselves more money. That's what they learn.
Isn't this Pelosi's house? And she was in power when this episode aired and made millions the whole fucking time. Way to go, San Francisco.
Yeah, no, we've been under the Cardassian system our whole lives, John.
But to me, like, people say writers that write fiction aren't smart enough to write nonfiction. And let alone TV.
Well,
I write plenty of nonfiction in my Twitter tales, so
I would actually argue this though.
The amount of the amount of disses I've heard about TV shows, fiction writers, game writers, and the amount of times they got it right, while all the beautiful Pride and Prejudice style writers, well, they wrote about the rich, and now there's only 4 million of them.
Well, here's what I was gonna say, and I think this is kind of where I'm gonna go with it. The you know what the difference between the Cardassian system of jurisprudence and our system is? The Cardassians like their system.
I don't know about no, they don't. If they did, they wouldn't. Well, okay, we can't have this argument until we get to season 7. So
the anomaly proves the rule. The fact that we only get onesies and twosies that side slightly with the Federation.
So my issue, of course, O'Brien should have known better to go check history, and then we get a weak plot device to them to happen to go back because just pick 1 out of 3. It's my lucky day. Yeah, okay. Let's see. What else was it that
all
didn't?
we could have said was they were going to triangulate. 3 tries, they would have got it anyways, but they were going to aim randomly for the first 2.
I would have actually
fixed that plot hole right there.
I actually can have an argument about this one for a real simple one. The prophets cannot allow the emissary to not be in the right spot.
Well,
therefore, O'Brien picked the right one.
I want to find out more about the problem.
This, of course, got me to overthink the concept of time travel, and I totally realized that even with them trying to not interfere with history, them just being there, breathing the air, changes the course of history, okay? Like, first of all, you might not think it's any of significance, right? One or two guys breathing in more oxygen molecules that otherwise wouldn't have for history. Okay, well, it's not so much that they're breathing in and stealing oxygen from the rest of the population. It's God only knows what 24th century viruses, foreign viruses from many worlds, that they're breathing out into the atmosphere. Like, of course history's gonna change. We got super space COVID from Cisco, and that's what killed everybody.
They closed that loophole by never showing us Belle's face. Because if we had seen Belle's face at any time in the original part of the episode, we would have seen that, like, he did change history. Like, if suddenly Cisco is playing Malcolm or MLK, Martin Luther King, and we see, Avery Brooks is now Martin Luther King in the history, in the videos, things have changed.
Yeah, even that doesn't line up either, because watching
he was always there and it always worked the way it worked.
Yeah,
but
the way
he condensed the virus and actually killed most of them, making it easier for the Federation to grow because there were less people.
All I can say to that particular
COVID
point, John,
2024.
is, John, just wait.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a hilarious moment. That is exactly the callback you're looking for.
Yeah, but that's also my issue with the whole thing. Like I said, you can't just assume someone else's identity when we have, like, pictures stamped on all of our ident cards. It's a concept that when you look at it, it just doesn't age super.
Driver's licenses were already a thing.
I mean,
in 1994,
did not calculate that progression.
Like I said,
get more like Blade Runner.
The concept, we're suffering the Picard season 3 syndrome here. In fact, in that the concept is what with Picard season 3, the end game goal was getting back the crew back on the Enterprise D. That was it. Then the story was written from that, and that's why we got what we got, because it was more about getting to that point, and that's what they wanted, and that's what they got. So, same situation. Story concept is like, hey, what if we go back in time and we do talk about social issues, and San Francisco's just a disgusting shithole with sanctuary stuff. Well, it ended up still being a disgusting shithole anyway, just not with the sanctuary districts.
But this was also the lowest viewed series of the series.
Tia G was in season 7 at the time that this was airing, and it was in its final season. So DS9 didn't get its chance until next.
Not enough. Like, to me, this is a testament to all those people that are trying today to write their social issues. Like, if you have issues, hey, I don't know all of them. 7 billion of us, everybody's struggling with what they're struggling with. I don't know what you're going through. But if you write it well enough, it can last from 94 to today. If you write it well enough, it doesn't get called this horrible whitewashing of history. Instead, it's like, damn, called it. Like, that's what The Simpsons have been doing. That's what South Park's been doing. Like, they don't call out events in social history and pick a side and then look bad because now their side can be judged too. Instead, they play both sides off of each other and show how dumb nobody's being. Like, the issue, it's always been talk. The more we talk, the more we can talk. The more we can talk, the more we can talk about. The more we can talk about, the more we can deal with and evolve, get better, become the Federation.
Yeah, that's why they push out issues in the media, social issues. They try to stoke those flames. It's like what Rick or Steve said is totally correct. There's an effort in media to divide us based off of these issues when it's like
neglecting that, because this is the media that gets it right.
This is what calls out that media, because right.
Yeah.
But then my biggest issue with the plot of this episode is that when Cisco assumes the role of Belle, he ends up reducing Belle's role. That he makes it sound like Belle was the center of the argument, and then it ends up being the other guy that he worked with. I think that's the guy who gets shot, that he doesn't want to. Yeah, the more reasons, learned.
Well, okay, but here's the trick, though, right? how history writes it is a completely different thing necessarily than how it actually went down, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of arguments in history where I've seen people say, like, yes, so and so was the figurehead, but it was actually these like 5 guys behind the scenes that were actually making things work. There's a perfect example of this I know, which is, yes, Alan Turing, was the guy who helped create the first computer to help crack Enigma, but he couldn't have done it without the 16 women that were working with him to actually develop what he was talking about.
To actually crunch the numbers by hand, manually.
And not just that, but like, for example, Doreen Valiente, who is, a long removed sister, shall we say, was one of the people that helped him crack the actual physical work of how to make his computer function, right? But you don't hear about Doreen Valiente. You hear about Alan Turing.
And the worst part is the name computer. He gave it that name out of homage to the computers that made it work. Like, those women, their original job title was computer.
Yeah.
The whole name computer is an homage to them. And that's why AI sucks today. Because we're all trying to say that we can make something smarter than us, and Alan Turing was trying to make something as smart as the women he was serving with. He hadn't even achieved that, and we said he did. And we didn't even know that it was named after women. Like, that's so frustrating, man.
But that's absolutely the crux of this, right? Is it's not necessarily that Bell contributed more than anyone else. It's that history remembers Bell
more than
everybody else. Got wasted, pretty much, right?
Yeah.
And
even
the issue
even
with
did,
looking
right?
at history.
Yeah.
If you don't look at all of the stories and assume that all of them are true because you weren't there, you're going to keep judging only the ones that you believe to be true, and all the rest are lies or over exaggerations. But like, what if even the ones you believe to be true are over exaggerations? Like, if you just accept that there was a lot of bad things going on and that some of those bad things are still going on, it's a lot easier to look at the whole picture than to assume that you know the one linear progression through all of this. Like, that's where good writing comes from too, and this is the perfect example of it. This 2-part episode wasn't meant to tell San Francisco be better. It was meant to show how the Federation already got better. The Federation had to go through this growth. We have to go through all the things we did wrong. If America didn't go through the worst version of slavery in history, modern day human trafficking wouldn't disgust us as much as it does today.
Yeah. And it applies, and what you just said applies directly to pop culture. And I mean, that's why our arguments on this show tend to... Yeah, that's why our arguments tend to... Yeah, that's why our arguments on this show tend to transcend between, what we perceive as the real around us and our pop culture, sci-fi fantasy universes, is because we're not afraid to discuss the social issues and the implications. I mean, I wear this flag proudly and I love my country, but I also recognize that I'm, sharing it with 330 million other, hopefully it would be nice if y'all were diehard patriots like me, but we need to have the conversations and we need to have the discussions. And you're right. I think Star Trek and Star Wars needed what's happened the last couple of years. Because people were of the belief that, Star Wars, it's an indestructible IP. It'll never fail. Okay? Famous last words.
Yeah.
Titanic would never sink. Well, okay, technically the Titanic didn't sink. It was the Olympic. But again, that's another story.
And the Titan.
Huh?
And of course the Titan.
Yeah, the Titan and the Olympic are what's down there now. So does that mean the next Ocean Gate ship's going to be Enterprise? So, yeah. Rest in peace to the 19-year-old kid. You deserved better.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying is, like, Star Trek, we've now seen truly bad Star Trek. Like, Star Trek 5 is not bad. And it's got a couple of missteps, but the reality of it is, it's bad because it's a victim of circumstance overall. Shatner actually did try to give a good Star Trek movie. And he takes the jokes in stride. Like in Futurama, they had him write a line where it's like, where Spock goes, Melvar, when I directed Star Trek 4, I had to respect my actors. And then, Shatner's like, and when I respected me, I got a good performance out of me so much. And the man does know how to take a joke on occasion.
It's admirable.
Right. But of course, some of our viewers would have different disagreements with that, and rightly so, based off a personal account. I get it. So never meet your heroes. Including me. And so it's...
I'm just as heroic in real life. You can meet me anytime.
Yeah, but we also sit on a panel and we're also full of ourselves and we've accepted that we're shit. So, yeah, there it is. Nemesis of Eden in the chat with his praise of Shatner. Skogly, did he actually scream that from his room by chance? Did you hear anything that we can't?
No.
Okay. No, the point is... Yeah, I don't know what the point is. I just lost my train of thought again.
Some people would be disappointed if they met Shatner. He didn't make some
right. We needed Star Trek to suck so we could see how it can get better. Like, okay, the first 2 seasons of Picard, not a fan, never gonna watch them again. They're the Puke-hard or P-hard, whatever derogatory.
Dude,
I like season 3. I like it.
Season 2 was worse than anything on Disney Plus.
Jesus, that's a statement and a half. Yeah, so for me, I like the fan service at season that is Picard season 3 because I don't like the TNG movies. I think they are all terrible piles of trash. And honestly, if we end up getting a couple of TNG anthology movies, hint, hint, Terry Metalis, there's a lot that could be said for that 1 year of Enterprise D serving as interim flagship. I mean, seriously, guys, how cool would that fucking be? But yeah. But we've seen how bad it can get. We've seen what bad Star Trek, bad writing, bad character. Star Trek is its own case study for writing now, as John has said. If I was a professor of show and writing and shit, I'm going to talk about why Discovery sucks, and I'm going to talk about why TOS is amazing, and why DS9 I think is personally better, and why the first 6 Star Trek films are perfection as far as movies go.
But then also, like, the big thing about this issue is that, like, a lot of the people that have canceling authority are being the Donald Trump that they all, like, claim to hate, which is just nuclear button on the cancel. Like, let's go, let's cancel everything. And it's like, no, these mistakes are what make us better, especially in film, especially in fiction, because it's not real. Didn't happen. Nobody got hurt. And in that instance...
Well, I disagree with that statement. It is real. Somebody thought up and manifested it in their mind and put it to screen and showed it to us and put it all in our minds. Now, we all remember it a bit differently and we all have our own different takeaway, but to say it's not real, that's simply not true. It exists somewhere.
More to say, it's not real in the sense that, like when you watch a documentary on literally anything negative, you have to eat the fact that happened.
No, you don't. You can ignore that too if you want.
It still happened.
Right.
Whereas when you watch this...
Well, at least we were told it happened.
Fictional,
some documentaries are totally shamelessly fake. They don't even say it.
And that's fair, but then there's a documentary about that documentary eventually, and that's the part about the truth that's like the hard but also the boring but also the part about the standard that matters, is that if you keep to the standard, you stay boring in your most life, like where most people are just like, oh, that's a human living their human life. Then when you get to the fiction, you can write these wild events that really make everybody look bad, because Cisco does look bad. In this episode, he had to uphold a horrible event in his history that he knew was a horrible event, and he knew how to fix it. And the only way to fix it was to let it happen, because if he fixed it the wrong way, the Federation could have been the Fourth Reich. And he knew that, and he
according to Picard season 2, it was.
But and in that story, though, it's told that way. You know, and it lets that be the reality without also having any of us suffer it for real.
Well-
Because what we get is a story about that universe, and that universe deals with it the way that universe did, and then says, now you go home and deal with it your way. And what
Yeah,
did
I
the
mean,
people
look-
of San Francisco do? They did.
Yeah.
Because that's what fiction can do, is it can let you have the real life battles in a fictional verse so that you can go home and take care of them like normal, respectful people.
Well, let's be honest. Look, here's what it really boils down to. Science fiction was originally, the core idea was, because we couldn't talk about certain social issues at this time, we're going to cloak these social issues in metaphor and talk about them in this, futurescape, or with robots instead of people or whatever.
Corian,
Right?
we already talked about Strange New Worlds.
Yeah, right. But I mean, it's the same idea here, right? And the idea is we get to explore those issues. We get to look at ways of doing them, of finding our own answers, because the issues are presented in a way that allows us to think. Like, look, does this episode particularly end with okay, guys, we all agree that this kind of situation is bad and poverty is bad, and this is exactly how we fix it? No. What it does is it provides the questions and then asks the viewer to come up with the answer. And that's what good writing should do, especially in like a fiction genre, is not give you the answer, but make you ponder the question. Because ultimately, look, I love writers. I hang out with writers all the damn time. They are not there to fix society's ills. They are there to point them out so that the people that are smart in that area can try to fix those issues.
And can think about them in this perspective, so you're not constantly thinking about us versus them. Instead, you're looking at them versus them, and you're watching them resolve their problems. And then you go, that's a horrible way to resolve it. They barely negotiated anything. What if we all just, started talking to the poor people and figured out what the actual issue is? We could start that today and just never get this bad. Because we watched how bad it could get. And we've seen how bad it can get in the past, right? Like, that's what people say when history repeats itself, is in the fiction, we're literally rewriting it, and then it still applies today, 20 years later, 30 years later. Like, that's the frustrating part about all of this, in terms of, like, stop denigrating fiction as this place where you'll never find actual information.
Oh, hell
Because
no.
eventually the only people that get paid to write that fiction write the Star Wars sequels. And they don't tell us anything about anything, and they try to make our old favorites somehow bad because they happen the way they happen. Do what this last episode of S&W just did. Because if anything, S&W just justified this whole episode, because it turns out the Federation does get it. Turns out the Federation does listen to diplomacy. Turns out the Federation is awesome. They just don't have all the right answers.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow,
I
well
did want to
done.
address one other thing I'd heard. Some people are talking like, oh, season 2, episode 2 was a feminist rant moment, blah blah blah, and I'm like, where in the actual hell do you even draw that from? Because
You need to listen to that
okay,
episode
first
again,
of all,
Tanya.
it's wrong, because this episode doesn't happen without Pike. So already, no man in this situation, no cool court trial. So that's not even a factor here. That has nothing to do with it. That's nonsense. So it's like, where was any of that represented? The character is relatable because the Illyrian struggle can be applied to anything. It can be related to anything like actual legitimate religious persecution, or actual race persecution, or even just the bullshit I had to go through from kids in school because, it's fun to make fun of people who like Star Trek. And
Hell, I was actually reminded of one of the charities that I work with very closely, which is the Rainbow Railroad, which is a group that literally smuggles gay people out of countries where you can be shot in the street for being gay. Right? And this is the kind of thing that, you can almost see somebody being smuggled out and having to have an asylum hearing and them saying, well, being gay is, like there is a crime, so really should we be upholding it? That's what my takeaway from that episode was.
Exactly.
But
That's
then
exactly.
to
I mean,
apply to this episode, like if you combine DS9, the way DS9 wrote this episode, this new S&W episode, the way it was written upholds why Cisco was willing to do what he did, the way that he did it with the minimal intervention, because he knew no matter how gross it got in 2024 then, by his time it had gotten so
Starfleet was going to do the right thing.
I think for Star Trek Day, JRC, shout out to you, man, if you're out there, and thank you for your service. One of our followers serves in the United States Navy, goes out from time to time. But I have some interesting debate back and forth on religion and stuff. But he's also a huge diehard Star Trek fan. Now, he thinks Nemesis is a good movie. And
okay, everyone is entitled to their opinion.
I agree. I think it's the second worst Star Trek movie. I don't think of him any less for that opinion, but I found it interesting because he hates Picard Season 3. So, for Star Trek Day, we need to get Doomcock. We gotta get JRC because he's got camera and he does stuff on other shows, and we need to get all the other like diehard Star Trek fans that are out there. I don't know if Mexican Iron Man was. I can't remember if he's diehard Star Wars or if he likes Star Trek.
He's more Star Wars.
That's what I thought.
Trek.
And Nemesis of Eden says, I think Nemesis is a good song. Yeah, I mean the soundtrack's cool, but and then I'm sure it's
Arch Enemy.
But I think we do for Star Trek Day this year. I think we need to try and get a Star Trek panel, and it just needs to be discussing. First of all, it just needs to open up where everyone gets to share their favorite Star Treks, why they love it, and what matters. Because here's the thing, I get it. I want to know why. I want to actually debate with Doomcock why he likes Kirk so much. Because I like Kirk too. I like Picard. I like Archer. I would have liked Janeway if she had this thing called consistency. But Kate Mulgrew did her best. And the character had potential. Even, like,
I think Janeway would have been great if they had just removed the penis and let her be female.
If they had just, right, because it's like, oh, the Prime Directive, we have to uphold it. And then the next week it's, who cares about that stupid thing? I wipe my ass with that piece of paper. So yeah, the point is, everybody's got their favorite Star Treks, and I think it's going to be good for all of us in true Roddenberry diplomacy spirit to actually have this discussion, because Sisko, in my opinion, is the best captain. He's the best of Kirk, he's the best of Picard, he's also his own heroic self, as we see on display, and he does some things that we'll talk about, but he still tries to believe in the vision and the idea of TOS and TNG, and that's why I find DS9 to be the most relatable Star Trek, because it is a proper deconstruction. This is how you do a proper deconstruction deep dive lore. What would have worked in The Last Jedi is if Luke had played the reluctant master as a bit to see if Rey was truly dedicated to saving people, and then halfway through goes, all right, it's time for class. It's time for me to kick your ass several times over.
I was even thinking Leia should have had the Jedi Temple. And because when Luke told her about her powers, she was like, well, I already know how to run a nation. I'm a princess. And I lost my planet. So what am I going to do? I'm going to go to the other half of my tribe.
Yeah, I could have seen like Leia, like
Jedi Temple. But then she sends Rey to Luke, because Rey is above Leia's understanding of the Force, and then you get your bang.
Well, and then you need to properly develop Rey as a likable character who actually struggles, and then there's the whole thing.
She's working with Leia. We have two women fighting women to show women how to be strong, so you get all those things that you want.
Oh, you're talking a full rework of Farce Awakens too? Okay, fair enough. But anyway, we don't have time to get into that either. But that's what I'm saying is a Star Trek, why we love Star Trek special. We can either host it on this show or host it. I don't really care where we host it, but I think that's what we should try to do. Is get the ones who want to be passionate and argue why they love their Star Trek the most, because that's what I want to see more of people doing. I'm not saying don't criticize, but try to, match that criticism, at least balance it out, if not slightly overshadow it with why you love the Star Trek you love. Where do your standards come from? Because that's what I see a lot of critics mistake themselves do, is they speak so, passionately, which can translate as arrogance, which is then it's like, well, nobody wants to listen to arrogance. It's like, what's your source? And then people say, oh, well, I've published like several books, or I've done stuff. It's like, oh, okay, yes, that's good. You know how to write basic, but okay, what's your lore knowledge? Do you know the facts? Do you know the various maximum warp factors of a Constitution class, an Excelsior,
Even less than that, what's your standard? What is the 3 ones that tell you this is what Star Trek is supposed to look like, so that I can compare and contrast to the new Trek? Because like for me, I'm learning about DS9 as I'm watching New Trek. I'm disappointed in New Trek for the same reasons I'm disappointed in the Star Wars sequels. Like, there was history that had got it mostly right. All you had to do was adapt some of the characters to modern times, not every single one. And all you had to do was just do good standard writing, and write the standard. And then you could have told your story any which way you wanted, but as long as you followed the standard set by the writers previous, you could have done good. And that's what S&W did, finally.
All you had to do was be a Trill. Understand that you are getting a symbiont that is a link in a chain, moving from
that's the tie.
Right, moving from what has happened and building on that for the next generation to come along. Right? That's what writing a legacy series is. You are the next link in a chain. And if you're determined to break that chain, then you have wasted your shot.
Wait. The universe you're adopting is the symbiote. You are the one taking it on, because you do have your life story. Jadzia was not Curzon, and Star Trek recognized that. So we do too, and that's why, like I said, I said my standard, and I got it. Like, and when I got it, look at my expression. Like, I will totally be cool with you if you hit the minimum standards. I always have been. On every time an episode has been good enough, I've said it's good enough. But when you hit those standards as well as SNW2 hit it, now you're a masterpiece. Now you're a Star Trek. Now your universe is parallel. Now, to whoever wrote this episode, take a couple more risks.
And I'm not trying to demean, certain people who may see this broadcast and think that, I'm trying to demean your credentials. It's not that I'm demeaning. I'm saying that credentials don't automatically make you a Star Trek expert. Credentials help, establish basic story structure, but see, that's the problem I have with Ronald D. Moore's writing. While he does a good job for DS9, he's not a sci-fi writer. At least not a proper science fantasy writer. Like the newer BSG is totally dumbed down by comparison even to its predecessor. And so it's and then he does Caprica, and oh boy, I didn't even bother with that one because BSG ended so terribly. But that's the point that I'm saying, is that technobabble, lore building, in-universe lingo speak, that shit has always mattered and is necessary to tell a good story, because if you don't have a good established world for people to lose themselves and escape to, it's not going to work. All right, we are now out of time, so I'm just going to shout out to Rancor Steve, Nemesis of Eden, Stream Elements Bot. Thank you all for showing up and gracing us with your presence and helping boost our chat. If you like what we do, please like, subscribe, share out to the world. We're going to get back on our podcast schedule eventually, real soon, I promise. It's just, life is... life is life. It's a thing, and I'm trying to get somewhere else, and I want to be, get there sooner rather than later. So, yeah, and thank you all for wonderful comments. I'm Peter York. We'll see you next week. This has been a presentation of the Writer Brothers Tuesday Night Live Show. The Writer Brothers, restoring respect into discourse.